Look at this painting. Really look at it. Two men, an empty field, wooden clubs raised in the air, and nothing else. No army, no crowd, no reason we can see. Just two ordinary men who have decided, somewhere in the wreckage of whatever brought them here, that today one of them has to die. Now look closer. Both of them are sinking into the ground, up to their knees, swallowed by the earth beneath them, and neither one has stopped. Neither one has looked down. Neither one has noticed that while they are focused entirely on destroying each other, the ground itself is consuming them both, slowly, equally, without preference for either side. Francisco Goya painted this on the wall of his own house, not for a gallery, not for a king, not for money or reputation or posterity, for himself, to wake up to every morning, to eat breakfast in front of, to walk past in the dark. A 74-year-old deaf man, alone in a house on the outskirts of Madrid, who had survived war and plague and madness and the collapse of everything he had ever believed in, looked at the world around him and painted this. That decision tells you more about what this painting means than any art historian ever could. The painting is called Duelo a Garrotazos, Duel with Cudgels. It was never given a title by Goya himself. It was never meant to be seen. It belongs to a collection of 14 works found on the walls of his house after he left Spain and never returned. Works we now call the Black Paintings, dark, violent, hallucinatory images painted directly onto plaster walls in a house that Goya named, with a particular kind of bitter irony, La Quinta del Sordo, the house of the deaf man. He was the deaf man. He had lost his hearing completely in 1793, following a severe illness that nearly killed him. For the remaining 35 years of his life, he existed in total silence. He could not hear music. He could not hear conversation. He could not hear the war that was tearing his country apart outside his window. He could only watch it. And what he watched, he painted. The silence matters, because silence does something to a man. It removes the noise that normally separates us from our thoughts. It strips away the comfortable hum of daily life that keeps difficult truths at a distance. Goya had no distance. He had nothing between himself and what he saw. And what he saw, he put on his walls. And what he put on his walls was this: two men, sinking, still swinging. To understand why this image exists, you have to understand the world that produced it. Spain in the early 19th century was not a country. It was an open wound that kept reopening every time it began to heal. Napoleon invaded in 1808. The Spanish royal family, the institution that was supposed to represent the nation's dignity and continuity, collapsed immediately. Charles IV abdicated. His son Ferdinand VII was manipulated out of the throne within weeks. The French occupied the country for 6 years, and Goya, who had spent decades as the official court painter, who had painted these kings and queens in all their gilded magnificence, watched the entire edifice of power he had served reveal itself as hollow the moment it was genuinely tested. He documented what followed in a series of 82 etchings known as the Disasters of War. They are among the most brutal images ever made: executions, mutilations, mass graves, civilians and soldiers indistinguishable in death. A country that had turned on itself so completely that Goya stopped labeling who was Spanish and who was French, because by the end, it no longer mattered. The violence had become its own cause. People were dying not for any ideology or nation or principle, but simply because the dying had begun and nobody knew how to make it stop. And then, when the French were finally expelled and Ferdinand VII returned to reclaim his throne, Goya watched something that broke whatever remained of his faith in human progress. Ferdinand immediately abolished the liberal constitution that reformers had bled to establish. He restored the Inquisition. He began executing the very men who had organized the resistance against Napoleon. The patriots became the enemies. The liberators were hanged. The country that had just survived a foreign occupation tore itself apart, celebrating the return of the tyrant it had been occupied trying to protect itself from. By 1820, Spain was in full civil war again, liberal against royalist, constitutionalist against absolutist. The same people, the same fields, different flags over the same pointless graves. Goya was 74. He was deaf. He was watching from a house on the edge of a city that was consuming itself. And he picked up his brushes and walked to his wall and painted two men in a field, sinking into the earth, too committed to the fight to notice that the fight was killing them both. He did not paint generals. He did not paint kings. He did not paint the ideology or the theology or the politics that justified all the dying. He painted two ordinary men with wooden clubs, because that is the truth underneath every war that has ever been fought. Strip away the flags and the speeches and the causes and the righteousness, and what you find every single time is this: two people who are both losing, neither one aware enough of anything beyond the next swing to notice. Now let us look at what Goya actually painted, because every detail in this image is a decision, and every decision is an argument. The two men are not equals in posture, but they are equals in fate. The man on the left has his club raised above his head. He is mid-swing. His face is twisted with effort and rage and something that might be fear if you look long enough. There is blood already visible on him. He has already been hit. He is already wounded. And he is still swinging. Not because swinging is working, but because stopping would require him to acknowledge something he is not prepared to acknowledge. The man on the right is lower, bracing. His club is extended forward. His expression is not rage. It is something colder, the specific face of a man who made a decision somewhere earlier in the day and has since moved past, feeling into pure mechanical commitment. He is not angry anymore. He is just continuing, and both of them are sinking. The ground beneath them is dark and soft and consuming. Art historians have argued for 2 centuries about whether Goya intended this literally or symbolically, whether the men are genuinely standing in quicksand, or whether the dark earth at their feet is simply Goya's way of suggesting the inevitable downward pull of what they are doing. The argument is interesting, but it is also beside the point, because what Goya painted, regardless of his intention, is a truth so precise it does not require explanation. When two people are fully committed to destroying each other, the ground disappears beneath them both. That is not a metaphor. That is physics. That is economics. That is psychology. That is history. Every resource poured into the fight is a resource no longer available for standing. Every blow landed costs as much as every blow absorbed. The fighting itself is the sinking. The two things are not separate events. They are the same event, and the sky above them. Look at the sky. It is not dramatic. There is no storm coming to punctuate the moment. There is no divine light breaking through clouds to assign meaning to what is happening. The sky is pale and cold and utterly indifferent. The mountains in the background exist the way mountains have always existed, without caring, without witnessing, without any relationship whatsoever to the two men dying in their shadow. The universe in this painting is not cruel. It is simply not watching. And somehow that is worse than cruelty. Cruelty at least implies you matter enough to be targeted. Goya painted an indifferent cosmos. Two men destroying each other in a universe that has not noticed and will not notice and would not change anything even if it did. This is where philosophy becomes unavoidable. Because Goya was not simply documenting Spain. He was making an argument about the human condition itself, an argument so compressed and so precise that it has outlasted every political crisis that inspired it by 200 years. The argument is this: conflict, genuine sustained conflict, requires each participant to believe completely in the possibility of their own victory. You cannot fight someone while simultaneously believing the fight is pointless. The belief in winning is not a side effect of conflict. It is the engine of it. Without that belief, the clubs go down. Without that belief, you look at the ground beneath your feet. Without that belief, you stop. But that belief, The belief that makes fighting possible is precisely the belief that prevents you from seeing what Goya shows us from outside. From our position, looking at this painting, the conclusion is immediate and absolute and requires no analysis at all. Both men are losing. The man who lands the next blow will still be sinking. The man who falls first will simply reach the bottom sooner. Winning this fight is not winning. It is simply being the last one consumed. Marcus Aurelius understood this. Writing in the 2nd century, commanding the largest army the ancient world had ever seen, he wrote in his private journals that men exist for one another, and that the harm of one is always the harm of all. He wrote that very few things are genuinely necessary for a good life, and that almost everything men destroy each other pursuing falls outside those few things entirely. He wrote that you could leave this life right now, and that the only question worth asking was whether the way you had spent it could be defended. Two men with wooden clubs in a field. Goya would not have needed to explain this painting to Marcus Aurelius. Aurelius would have recognized it immediately. This is what it looks like, Goya is saying, when men pursue harm instead of reason. This is the logical and physical and completely inevitable conclusion of choosing the club over the conversation. Not drama, not tragedy in the classical sense, just two men, a field, the ground, and the sky that does not care. Schopenhauer, who was writing at almost exactly the same moment Goya was painting these walls, argued that human suffering is not accidental. It is structural. It emerges from what he called the will, the blind, purposeless, insatiable drive that pushes living things forward without destination or meaning. The will does not want anything specific. It simply wants. And it keeps wanting long after the wanting has become self-destruction. Long after the ground has begun to give way. Long after any reasonable assessment of the situation would suggest that the clubs should go down. These two men are not villains. They are not symbols of stupidity or weakness or moral failure. They are the will. They are what the will looks like when you strip away every justification and every story and every flag and every cause and reduce it to its essential physical form. Two men, wooden clubs, earth that gives way, and the inability to stop. But here is what makes Goya different from a philosopher. A philosopher tells you the argument. Goya shows you the argument and then adds something no philosophical text can add. He shows you the specific texture of the light on the man's jacket, the specific shape of the blood already dried on his face, the specific quality of the other man's grip on his club, tight enough that you can see the effort, tight enough that you know he is not going to let go. Not yet. Not while there is still something left to swing at. He makes it real. And by making it real, he makes it personal. Because the moment you see the blood already dried, and the grip that will not loosen, you stop seeing a philosophical argument, and you start seeing every argument you have ever had that went on longer than it should have. Every relationship you have ever watched consume itself. Every conflict in your own life where you kept swinging long after the ground had started to give way beneath you, because stopping felt more like losing than continuing did. Goya is not talking about Spain. He stopped talking about Spain the moment he put the brush to the wall. He is talking about you. He is talking about the specific human capacity to commit so completely to a conflict that the conflict becomes its own justification. To fight not because winning is still possible, but because stopping would require you to look at everything the fighting has already cost, and that is a thing you are not yet ready to do. Both men are losing, neither one has noticed, and the painting does not tell you how to fix this. It does not offer resolution or redemption or a way out. It simply shows you the truth from a distance neither man inside the painting has access to, and it asks you, without asking, whether you recognize yourself. Goya left Spain in 1824. He was 78 years old. He applied for permission to travel to France for medical reasons. The permission was granted. He went to Bordeaux. He never came back. The black paintings stayed on the walls of his house. He left them there. Left them for whoever came next, whatever that meant, without titles without explanation, without any record of what he intended them to mean, or whether he intended them to mean anything at all beyond the fact of their existence on those walls. He died in Bordeaux in 1828. He was 82 years old. He had been deaf for the last 35 years of his life. He had outlived his wife. He had outlived most of his children. He had outlived the Spain he had been born into, and the Spain he had served, and the Spain he had watched destroy itself, and the Spain he had finally, quietly, without announcement, decided he could no longer live in. The paintings were transferred to canvas decades after his death, and eventually brought to the Prado Museum in Madrid, where they hang today, in a room built specifically to hold them. Thousands of people walk through that room every year. Most of them stop longest in front of Saturn devouring his son. It is the most famous of the black paintings, the most immediately shocking, the most obviously disturbing. Most people walk past Duel with cudgels in under a minute. But the people who stop, the people who actually look, the people who find the detail in the ground and follow it up through the bodies to the faces to the sky, those people tend to stay a very long time. Because there is a specific feeling that comes from looking at a truth you already knew but had never seen articulated so precisely before. Not the feeling of learning something new. The feeling of being shown something you always understood but never had the right image for. The feeling of recognition, of someone having looked at the same thing you have been looking at your whole life and found the exact right way to show it. Both men are losing. Neither one has noticed. And somewhere in your life, in something you are doing right now or have done, or are about to do, there is a field, and there is a club in your hand. And the question that this painting has been asking for 200 years, the question it will keep asking for 200 more, is not whether you are strong enough to win. It is whether you are honest enough